In 1839, a 19-year-old French kid was playing with metal and acid in his father's laboratory. He had no idea what he discovered would one day power satellites in space, light up 5 million American homes, and save families over $60,000 in their lifetime. But here's what nobody tells you about solar energy. The same technology that promises to save our planet might actually create a 78 million ton waste crisis. So how exactly does a glass panel on your roof turn sunlight into the electricity powering your TV right now? And is solar really as clean as they claim? Let's find out. Picture this: Paris, 1839. Edmond Becquerel isn't even old enough to drink. He's a teenager messing around in his father's physics laboratory, experimenting with metal electrodes dipped in acidic solutions. Then something strange happens. When light hits the metal, the solution conducts more electricity. Not heat, not motion, just light, creating electrical current. Becquerel had just discovered the photovoltaic effect, the foundation of every solar panel in existence today. But like many great discoveries, nobody really knew what to do with it. So here's a question for you. If the science was discovered in 1839, why did it take over 100 years to make a working solar panel? The answer reveals something fascinating about how technology actually develops. In 1873, an English engineer named Willoughby Smith discovered that selenium, a chemical element, becomes electrically conductive when exposed to light. 3 years later, in 1876, William Grills Adams and Richard Evans Day proved that selenium could produce electricity from light without any heat or moving parts. Think about that. No turbines, no steam, no combustion, just light hitting a material, and electricity appears. In 1883, an American inventor named Charles Fritz created what many consider the first true solar cell. He coated selenium with an ultra-thin layer of gold. And it worked. But there was a problem, a big one. His cell converted only 1 to 2% of sunlight into electricity. That's terribly inefficient. For context, a modern solar panel converts 20 to 25% of sunlight into usable power. So Fritz's invention was more of a scientific curiosity than a practical solution. Solar energy sat on the shelf for decades. But then came 1954, and everything changed. At Bell Telephone Laboratories in New Jersey, 3 scientists, Darrell Chapin, Calvin Fuller, and Gerald Pearson, were working on a completely different problem. They needed a reliable power source for telephone systems in remote, humid locations where batteries kept failing. Chapin started testing selenium cells. They were terrible, only 0.5% efficient. Then Pearson handed him something different, a silicon cell they'd been developing for transistors. Chapin tested it. 2.3% efficient. Not amazing, but 4 times better than selenium. Over the following months, the 3 scientists refined the design. They discovered that creating a junction between 2 types of silicon, one with extra electrons, one with fewer, created an internal electric field. On April 25, 1954, Bell Labs announced the silicon solar cell to the world. It was 6% efficient. The New York Times wrote that this invention may mark the beginning of a new era, leading eventually to the realization of one of mankind's most cherished dreams, the harnessing of the almost limitless energy of the sun. But here's the catch. Each cell costs $300 per watt. Today, solar costs less than 50 cents per watt. So what made solar affordable? And how did these cells evolve into the panels sitting on rooftops across America? Let me explain what's actually happening inside a solar panel, because once you understand this, the whole system makes perfect sense. Every solar panel is made of smaller units called photovoltaic cells. Each cell is essentially a sandwich of silicon, the second most abundant element on Earth, found in ordinary sand. But raw silicon doesn't generate electricity. It needs to be doped, mixed with other elements to create an electric field. Here's how it works. The top layer of silicon is infused with phosphorus. Phosphorus has 1 more electron than silicon needs, so this layer carries a slight negative charge from the extra electrons floating around. The bottom layer is doped with boron. Boron has 1 fewer electron than silicon needs, creating holes where electrons should be. This layer carries a positive charge. When these 2 layers meet, they create a junction, and that junction generates an electric field. Now sunlight enters the picture. Light is made of tiny packets of energy called photons. When photons strike the silicon cell, they transfer their energy to electrons in the material. This energy is enough to knock electrons loose from their atoms. Here's the crucial part. The electric field at the junction pushes these freed electrons in one direction, toward the top of the cell. They're collected by thin metal lines on the surface called fingers and directed into wires. This flow of electrons is electricity, direct current electricity specifically, or DC, but your home runs on alternating current, AC, so you need one more piece of equipment. A complete residential solar system has several essential components working together. Let me walk you through each one. First, solar panels. These are where electricity is generated. Modern residential panels typically contain 60 to 72 individual cells connected in series. Each panel produces between 250 and 400 watts of power, depending on size and efficiency. The panels you see on most rooftops are crystalline silicon panels, either monocrystalline, which is made from a single silicon crystal and is more efficient, or polycrystalline, which uses multiple silicon fragments and costs less. Second, the inverter. This is arguably the most critical component after the panels themselves. Solar panels generate DC electricity, but your appliances, lights, and outlets need AC electricity. The inverter converts DC to AC. Without it, your solar energy would be useless for powering your home. Modern inverters also communicate with your utility company, track energy production, and optimize panel output. Third, the charge controller. If your system includes battery storage, you need a charge controller. This device regulates the voltage and current flowing from the panels to the batteries. Why is this important? Because if you connect solar panels directly to batteries without regulation, you can overcharge and damage the batteries, or worse, cause a fire. Charge controllers prevent overcharging, protect against deep discharge, and extend battery lifespan significantly. Fourth, batteries, optional but increasingly popular. Battery storage lets you save excess solar energy generated during the day for use at night or during power outages. Popular options include lithium-ion batteries like the Tesla Powerwall or traditional lead-acid batteries. Fifth, mounting systems and racking. Panels need to be securely attached to your roof at the optimal angle for maximum sun exposure. Mounting systems also need to withstand wind, snow, and other environmental stresses for 25 to 30 years. Sixth, metering equipment. Your utility company will install a bi-directional meter that tracks both the electricity you pull from the grid and the electricity you send back. This is essential for net metering, which we'll talk about shortly. All these components work together seamlessly. Sunlight hits panels, panels generate DC electricity, the inverter converts it to AC, and that AC powers your home. Excess power either charges your batteries or flows back to the grid for credit. Here's what most people really want to know. Is solar actually worth it financially? The numbers are compelling. The average American household spends approximately $1,942 per year on electricity, about $162 per month. With a properly sized solar system, you can eliminate most or all of that expense. According to Energy Sage, the average U.S. homeowner saves around $61,000 over 25 years after installing solar panels. That's not a typo. $61,000. In high electricity cost states like California, where rates average 33 cents per kilowatt hour, savings can exceed $100,000 over the system's lifetime. But solar savings vary dramatically by location. Hawaii, California, Massachusetts, and New York see the highest returns because their electricity rates are significantly above the national average. States like Louisiana and Oklahoma, where electricity is around 11 cents per kilowatt hour, see smaller but still positive returns. Now let's talk about how you get these savings. Net metering is the key policy that makes residential solar financially attractive. Here's how it works. During sunny days, your panels often generate more electricity than your home needs. Under net metering, that excess power flows back into the electrical grid. Your meter literally runs backward. Your utility company credits your account for every kilowatt hour you send back. Then at night, or on cloudy days when your panels aren't producing enough, you draw power from the grid and use up those credits. At the end of the month or year, you only pay for your net energy use, the difference between what you consumed and what you produced. Currently, 34 states plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico have mandatory net metering rules. Now, some states are transitioning to net billing, which credits you at a lower wholesale rate instead of the full retail rate. California implemented this under NEM 3.0, reducing the value of exported solar electricity. So timing matters. The earlier you install, the better the policies you might lock in. What about the federal tax credit? This is huge. The Residential Clean Energy Credit allowed homeowners to claim 30% of their total solar system cost as a credit against their federal taxes. If your system costs $20,000, you'd receive a $6,000 tax credit. That's not a deduction. That's a dollar-for-dollar reduction in the taxes you owe. However, this tax credit for residential systems installed after December 31st, 2025 has ended. Commercial solar projects still have some access to credits through alternative structures, but for homeowners who haven't yet installed, this major incentive is gone. Even without the federal credit, solar remains financially attractive because electricity rates keep climbing. Over the past decade, national electricity costs have increased substantially, and utility rate inflation shows no signs of stopping. When you install solar, you're essentially locking in your electricity price. While your neighbors watch their bills climb year after year, you're generating free electricity from your roof. Now, I promise to tell you the whole story, and that means addressing the downsides of solar energy, because they do exist. High upfront costs. Even with prices falling dramatically over the past decade, a residential solar system still costs around $21,000 to $30,000 before incentives. That's a significant investment, especially for families without substantial savings. Yes, financing options exist, but loans add interest costs, and leases mean you don't own the system, and therefore can't claim tax credits yourself. Weather dependence. Solar panels need sunlight to generate electricity. On cloudy days, production drops significantly. At night, production is zero. This is why battery storage is increasingly popular, but batteries add substantial cost. If you live in a region with frequent fog or cloud cover, your solar production will be lower than someone in sunny Arizona or California. Roof requirements. Not every roof is suitable for solar. You need adequate space, proper orientation. South-facing is ideal in the northern hemisphere, minimal shading from trees or neighboring buildings, and a roof in good structural condition. If your roof needs replacement in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll want to do that first. Otherwise, you'll pay to remove and reinstall panels later. The e-waste problem. This is the issue nobody likes to discuss, but it's real. Solar panels have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. After that, they become electronic waste, and there's a lot of it coming. The International Renewable Energy Agency estimates that by 2050, there could be 78 million metric tons of solar panel waste globally. That's a staggering amount. Here's the concerning part. Solar panels contain toxic materials like lead and cadmium. If panels end up in landfills and those materials leach into soil and groundwater, they pose genuine environmental and health risks. Currently, only about 10% of solar panels are recycled in both the United States and European Union. The rest, landfills. The recycling challenge is economic. It costs $15 to $45 to recycle a silicon solar panel in the U.S., but only $1 to $5 to dump it in a landfill. Until those economics change or regulations mandate recycling, most panels will take the cheaper route. Companies like Solar Cycle in Texas are trying to change this, developing processes to recover valuable silver, copper, and silicon from old panels. But the infrastructure isn't there yet at scale. First Solar, to their credit, operates recycling facilities and recovers 90% of semiconductor material from their panels. But they're the exception, not the rule. Manufacturing pollution. While solar panels don't pollute during operation, their manufacturing does generate some emissions and uses energy. The transport of panels, often from overseas factories, adds to the carbon footprint. That said, life cycle analyses consistently show that solar panels offset their manufacturing emissions within 1 to 4 years of operation, then generate clean power for another 20+ years. The overall environmental benefit is strongly positive. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone thinking about solar, and drop a comment below. I'm curious, have you installed solar panels? Are you considering it? What's holding you back? Until next time.